Hey rock stars, oh my goodness. So in this episode, I'm having mixed emotions, right? I'm excited and I'm a little bit sad too because it's the last episode of this season, of the podcasting season, where I've been going through with all of you about how to guest on podcasts, how to launch your own podcast. And so today is the last episode for that season, okay? But I am excited as well because this is going to be a topic that loads of people are wondering. They're always asking me questions around, and that is how to monetize your podcast. And so whilst there are so many different strategies on actually monetizing your podcast, I'm going to go through 3 basic strategies today that you can implement in your podcast no matter where you're at in your podcast. If you're just starting out, if you just started your podcast like last week, or whether you're scaling your podcast, you can implement these strategies straight away. Okay, and we are going to still keep it simple, keep it basic, because you can always add on to that. You can add on to all these other monetization strategies afterwards, because there are other different strategies where you can monetize, but you can add on to those later on as you scale your podcast. But implementing these 3 strategies in your podcast right now are absolutely vital. All right, so the first strategy is actually selling your own products and services. So when you're doing solo episodes, this is exactly what you want to be doing. You want to be giving them little tips, little tricks on little strategies that they can be implementing straight away, giving them quick wins, right? Little golden nuggets that they can just take away and start implementing. And you also want to start thinking about, if you don't have a call to action in place, right? Maybe some sort of a downloadable, right? At the end of the episode that you're giving away, because you're building your email list as well, you want to start doing that. And that should be something that complements what you're already doing, what you're talking about. And so if you are talking about, for example, how to lose weight, right? You want to then maybe give some sort of a downloadable as to some recipes, maybe some healthy recipes, right? And so it's always got to complement what you're talking about, what your business is, and giving them that little extra golden nugget that they can actually take away and start building on themselves, right? So they'll learn from your episode and learn all the different kind of tips and tricks you're talking about there, so they can excel a little bit further. And then to add to that, when you are creating your funnel, right? So when they actually put in their details, their name, their email, and they get the downloadable, you also want to create a funnel in the back end where once they've done that, it also takes them to another page where they have the option to actually book a call with you. Because what this does is, if they've liked what you've been talking about in the episode and they love your downloadable, most likely they are going to book a call with you to understand a little bit more, right? To get to know you a little bit more, to see whether you are the person that they want to work with. And so giving them that option to actually book a call with you then allows you to get to know them a little bit more as well. See if they are the type of client that you want to work with. Find out a little bit more information as to what they need, and see if both of you are a good fit. Once you have that conversation and the client is happy, or the potential client is happy, and you're happy to work with this person, then that's when you can make some sort of an offer. Okay, so this is part of the entire sales strategy. And you see, you can decide which offer you want to actually present to them, which offer would actually help them work out any of the challenges that they're actually going through after talking to you about them. And so you might have several different packages, right? You can have that conversation with them. And at that point, the potential client will probably decide whether they want to work with you or not. If they do, then that's great. And if they decide that, no, it's not the right time for whatever reason it is, right, then allow them to join your community, your Facebook or your Instagram or your LinkedIn, whichever platform you're actually using. Get them to actually friend you on there, right? Connect with them on there, because it's going to allow them to have further touch points with you, to see what you're doing. And from seeing all your posts and what you actually get up to, all the different client testimonials that you have, they may then decide to come to you later on down the line and say, hey, I'm ready to work with you now. Okay, so you want to add them to your platform, social media platforms. If you have your own private Facebook community, then it's great to add them in there as well. Okay, because then you're going to be giving a lot more tips and tricks. They're going to get a lot more touch points with you there to see what you actually do, how you help people. So it's always great to build a private community and start adding people in there, because you never know, later on down the line they can approach you. Right, so the second strategy here is most of you are probably affiliated with some of the systems and platforms that you actually use in your business or even in your podcast. So I want you to start thinking about maybe making a list of 5 different affiliate platforms that you absolutely love, that you use, and that you know that they're great. Okay, now that's really important. It can't be a system that you're telling everyone about but you've never used before, right? Because we want to make sure that there's ethics behind this, that there's morals behind this. And so as long as you're actually using these platforms and you know how they work and you know that they are great, and that's why you're using those, they're the ones that you should be telling everybody about. Because most likely you're using these platforms because it's helping you to be more efficient, to be more productive, all these different things. And so in order to help your potential clients, to help other people out there, you want to let people know about these too. And the great thing is once you become an affiliate with a platform or a system, wherever it may be, and every time you send your link out and tell people about it, if they purchase, then you make money as well. Okay. And so you probably have hundreds of different affiliate programs. Don't start sharing all 100 of them, okay? Because it's going to start confusing people. Like, stick to maybe 3 to 5 of the best ones that you use and absolutely love, and then start talking to people about them, right? How it's helped you, why you decided to use this, right? Why you're sticking with them. Because I know there's a lot of platforms that I use, and the number one reason why I stick around and keep them and continue using them is because a lot of them have great customer service. Like, every time I get stuck, right, and I contact them, they're ready there to help, right? A lot of them, they won't even get off the line to me until I am 100% satisfied. And having that level of customer service will keep me around forever. Let me tell you that, guys, right? And so I start looking at all different aspects when I start using a system, right? And then deciding whether I want to become an affiliate with them. Like, how great is their actual service? Is their customer service on point? Like, what are they doing? What kind of things are they implementing to progress and to keep up with future proofing, right? With AI, do they have AI implemented? I know a lot of systems do, and there's still more systems out there that are implementing AI and going even further. Like, I want to make sure that they're going to be around for the long term and that they are looking to future proof and make sure they're keeping ahead of technology. So these are all the kind of things that I actually look at when I decide to stick with a platform and then share it with my audience. And once I'm happy with all the different aspects, then and only then do I start sharing all my links and telling people about these different platforms, because if I'm happy and I'm satisfied with the outcome and the results, then I know everybody else that I share it with will be as well. Because remember, guys, when you start sharing different platforms, right, it's important that they do actually work, and the people you're sharing them to, your audience, are actually going to benefit from that. Because if they don't and things go wrong and you start actually sharing links to platforms you haven't really used and you're just going to do it just to make money, then when things go wrong, they're going to come back to you because you're the one that recommended it to them, right? And so you don't want to be that person, because it's going to build on your reputation as well, and you're all of a sudden going to be getting a bad reputation, which you don't want to do, because you've built this business, you've built a podcast that everybody loves. That's the last thing that you want. Okay, so that's why it's really important to only share platforms and affiliate links to the ones that you've actually been using and are happy with. And so when you do your episodes, like, mention these different platforms that you use, how it's helped, right? And let them know that the links will be in the show notes so they can go ahead and grab it there. Like, start talking about them, how it's helped you. You don't have to necessarily name them, because they might then just go to the website themselves and then purchase it without purchasing it on your own link. And so you can let them know how it's helped you, what it does, all these great things about them, and then let them know that in the show notes that you will be placing the links there so they can go ahead and take a look at that even further. Okay, and so the third strategy to use here. Now, when you're first starting your podcast, most likely your business is going to be the one that's feeding your podcast, right? That's going to be paying for the editing. That's going to be paying for the hosting. You might even do your own editing, which is fine with that, but you're still going to be having to pay for tools that will allow you to do this. And so it's probably going to be your business that's feeding all of this to keep your podcast going, especially when you're first starting out, okay? And so because of that reason, I want to speak to you about sponsoring your own podcast. Yes, it's absolutely possible. So many people have come to me and said, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think my business could be the sponsor to my podcast. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Why not? If you're paying to make sure that your podcast gets off the ground and it continues to build and scale and you're giving all this great content, why not? Right? And so you can absolutely be the sponsor for your own podcast. And what that means is that you can start doing your own ads, adding your own ads to the podcast to let them know a little bit more about what you do. So you've heard of other people sponsoring. Why can your business not be the one that sponsors your podcast if it's paying for it? And so making sure that you have ads in the front of each episode as they go out will give you even more credibility. It will give you even more of a chance to really get out there and people taking notice of what you do, what your business is, because these ads, these sponsor ads are always going to be at the front, right? Before your episode is listened to, you want to have the ad at the front. That is a prime location to have any ad. And if you're doing ads about your own business, why shouldn't it be right at the front? I mean, you can have ads in the middle of your content, middle of your episode, but I wouldn't advise that because it can get a little bit tricky as to where you're going to add this. Where would be the great point to actually slip this in? And it can get tricky because if you're in the middle of having this conversation and you're telling them about all these different tips and tricks and strategies that you've learned that they can implement, then it can get really difficult as to where you're going to slot that in. And then there is another place you can put it, and that's at the end of your podcast, right? But that is where you get the least listeners. Why? Because a lot of people don't listen right to the end of the show, right? End of the episode. And so a lot of the times that can get missed. And so the prime spot is always the ad at the beginning of an episode. People are always going to have the most attention there at the beginning, so the most likely will listen to it and it won't get missed out. And because it's your own sponsor ad, you can mention anything on there. You can talk about your products and services. You can talk about any events that you got coming up, masterclasses, webinar, all these different things you can actually include in your ad. Okay, so just to kind of backtrack on what we mentioned, there's 3 different strategies. First one is on the episodes itself. When you do solo episodes, start talking about your products and services. Give them tips and tricks on how they can move forward, the golden wins that they can get straight away. Make sure you have the call to action as well, and then offer them an option to book in a call with you. And the second strategy is having 5 golden affiliate links, right, on platforms and tools that you absolutely love, that you use, that you would love to share with everybody else, because if it's helped you, it's helped them as well. And then through your links, you'll be able to make money that way. And the third strategy is make sure that your business is a sponsor to your podcast, especially if you're first starting out and your business is feeding the podcast anyway. Why not get further promotion for your own business? Now, I do have a free gift for you to kind of help you a little bit further with this section. And if you go to 14daystolaunch.com, you'll be able to get a downloadable right there that's going to be able to help you implement some of the basic things in your podcast, making sure that there's no gaps in between and that you are actually building a successful podcast from the foundations up. Because I've seen a lot of times that people are trying to build on their podcast, scale their podcast, and it kind of falls flat. Why? Because they didn't realize that there was gaps missing, and then when there's gaps and the foundation isn't strong enough, then it is going to collapse on you guys. So if you go to 14daystolaunch.com, you'll be able to get the downloadable there and make sure that there's no gaps as you're building your podcast. And if you have built your own podcast and you just want to scale it, this downloadable will also help you just to do a self-assessment and see if there are any gaps maybe that you've missed, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. So this is going to help you out either way. if you're thinking about starting a podcast, just started a podcast, or even looking to scale your podcast, the 14daysto-launch.com is a place to go to make sure you can self-assess your podcast and make sure that you're on the right track. All right, guys, I look forward to seeing you in next week's episode. Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.